one of the great scholars giving instruction. He was holding class in Navadvip with so many other august and great scholars. Chaitanya, at the age of 10 and 12, was also a great scholar. But his father passed away when he was a child. And then later on, at the age of 17 or 18 years old, then he went to Gaya. It's recommended that one go to Gaya to honor the forefathers, to make some special ceremony for the forefathers who have passed away. And so since Chaitanya's father passed away, he went there at a suitable age, and there he took initiation from Ishvara Puri, who was a disciple of the exalted Madhavinda Puri. So this is a wonderful line. Chaitanya connected this with this wonderful line, and then when he came back to Navadvip, his consciousness was totally changed. He could only think about Krishna. He was chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and now he returned to his students. And the students saw such a remarkable change that whatever he discussed in his classes, he always referred back. He always brought the topic back to the vibration of the holy names. And so the students were kind of alarmed. What is this going on? Chaitanya seems like a madman. He can't seem to talk about anything else. And the devotees, the Vaishnava devotees there, they were very, very so pleased, so happy to have such an exalted person join their camp. And they were also, you see, in those days, the Vaishnavas didn't go out on Sankirtan. They met quietly. Usually, they met in the home of, what's his name? Srivas Thakur, thank you. So he's part of the Panchatattva. So Srivas, they met at his home. No one else could join. Only intimate personalities could go there and join together and chant together in his home. It was a very small movement. And so Chaitanya, everyone there, they were constantly blessing Chaitanya and giving him instruction. Well, he was the Supreme Lord. He'd come to promote this mission. They were giving him blessings, giving him instructions. And so Chaitanya told the devotees there that if you want to really get the mercy of Krishna, if you want to get Krishna's favor, first one should serve the devotees of Krishna. You know, we've all heard this expression, dasa dasa anudasa, to be a servant of the servant of the servant. But Chaitanya, actually, not only did he preach like this, he said, once you serve the devotees of Krishna, then Krishna himself will give you great blessings and show you great mercy. And so, Chaitanya himself, this is in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that sometimes he used to go around, and when he'd find dirty garments of the devotees, then he would take those dirty garments without the devotees knowing, and then he would go down to the river and wash those garments, hang them out to dry, fold them up very nicely, and then bring them to the home of the devotee. And he would be constantly doing this, and constantly serving the devotees in whatever way he could. And so, this is a very integral part of the Sankirtan movement. How not only what Chaitanya preached, but how he behaved. He was constantly serving the devotees. And here, earlier in this chapter, this is chapter 17. This introduces the growth of the Sankirtan movement. Prior to that, after they started chanting for a time at Srivas Thakur's house, then Chaitanya asked Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur. They were both older than he was. Nityananda Prabhu was about 10 or 12 years older than Chaitanya, and Haridas Thakur, he was even older than that. He was about 25 or 30 years older than Chaitanya. So now the movement started. Chaitanya was about in his early 20s in Navadvip. And so he sent out Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur. He asked them to go from home to home, and they would knock on the door, and when the proprietor came to the door, especially Nityananda would fall down on the ground and plead and beg the residents to chant the holy name. Sometimes they were successful. At other times they were not so successful. And they were thinking, how can we make this movement successful? They weren't so successful at that time, just going around door to door to plead people to chant the holy name. But then they ran into Jagai and Madai. And Jagai and Madai, they were the most vicious and ruthless persons in the whole town. One of the things they did, they were employed by Chankasi. They were kind of the constables in part of the town. It was actually a huge town. But they were supposed to keep the law, but at the same time they were the greatest miscreants and the greatest violators of the law. And so Nityananda and Haridas Thakur were thinking, if we can get these two people to take to the chanting of the holy name, that would be such a significant thing. Everyone would then respect Chaitanya's movement. Right now we're getting making some progress, but for the most part, no one was really respecting his movement. And so when they approached, you know the story, they approached Jagai and Madai, and ultimately they were struck. Nityananda was struck on the head, and he was bleeding, and Chaitanya came and he was about to kill the two rascals. But Nityananda pleaded with them. He said, these people, he told Chaitanya, are just typical residents of the Kali Yuga. They're rude and they're disrespectful. They have so many poor qualities. If we kill them, we'd have to kill everyone in the Kali Yuga. But that's not our mission. Now, Nityananda was reminding Chaitanya, because Chaitanya had gotten out his Shantiskas. He wanted to kill them both. But by the grace of Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya spared them. And actually they became great devotees. And at that time, more and more people in Navadvip started to join Chaitanya's mission. And so in this story that we're at now, they're saying that everyone is chanting Hari, Hari. The sound vibration of the holy names permeated all over Navadvip. So the movement had grown considerably. And the Brahmins didn't like this at all. Because the Brahmins, they had the power. Everyone usually came to the Brahmins for their knowledge and for their instruction. Nobody studied Shastra. The Brahmins were the Sanskrit scholars. The Brahmins, they were in the temple, they were the priests. So people came to the temple and they took knowledge from the Brahmins, but now the Brahmins were getting worried. Also the Muslims. Nobody liked this new movement of Chaitanya. The Muslims were complaining to Chankasi, and the Brahmins, they also complained. And Chankasi was, he was the local minister, the Muslim minister, the magistrate. He was the ruling force in that province. And so when they came, everyone who came there complaining, and the Brahmins were saying, this is not our religion. That people are going to him rather than coming to us Brahmins. And so Chaitanya actually, his mission was all-inclusive. He wanted the Brahmins to come and he wanted the Sudras to come. He didn't care. Everyone could come to Chaitanya's mission to chant the holy names, to study Bhagavad Gita. There was no hindrance. And even Chaitanya made Haridas Thakur, who was a Muslim, he gave him the label, the Namacharya, the master of the holy name. And in Chaitanya's movement, there were so many diverse people, so many diverse elements. And so the Brahmins, they were complaining. They were losing their authority. And so they left. And then later on that day, Chankasi, he went home. And on his way home, you know, in those days, still, there was not a Sankirtan movement out in the public. People were chanting in their homes or in front of their homes. Maybe they were chanting on the streets. Some people gathered. But there was no real active public Sankirtan movement. So anyways, Chankasi, he heard somebody there chanting in one home. And he immediately got riled up because he heard all of these complaints. Now he had to do something about it. And the first home he came to, they were chanting very enthusiastically in the home. And Chankasi and his guards, they ran into the home. The devotees, they were chanting so enthusiastically, they didn't hear the Chankasi. And to get everyone's attention, the Chankasi ripped the mridanga out of someone's hands and he smashed it on the ground. Now he got everyone's attention. And he told them, why are you performing the Sankirtan with such great enthusiasm? There's no Hindus anywhere that have such great fervor and enthusiasm as you. You're following so strictly. What's going on here? And why? Who gave you permission to chant? How is it that you're chanting without my permission? I'm the authority here in the city, and I never gave you permission to chant. So, you know, I'm very kind. I'm going to, allow this. I'm not going to punish you at this time. But if I ever hear the chanting of Hare Krishna again in my district, I'll not only confiscate all of your property, I'll force you to eat meat, and I'll convert you into Muslims. So the devotees, they were very fearful. There were several ways that somebody can be converted into Muslim. One way is that if a group of Muslims, they don't like you, they hold you down and they shove meat into your mouth. Another way is that a Muslim, he drinks some water, and then he doesn't like somebody, some Hindu, and he spits that water out upon the Hindu. So the Hindu culture was so strict that if one of those things happened to you, then you were no longer considered a Hindu. If you put meat in your mouth or you were sprayed with water from a Muslim, no one would consider you a Hindu ever.